Contemplate the workings of the inner being. Your eyes are wide open, but are you really seeing?
Welcome back to Mentor in the Mirror.
My name is Cole.
My name is Ta.
And we're here to have some conversation today about fat.
Fat phobia.
More specifically, fear of obesity and the way that society treats people that they perceive to be obese and that are clinically obese.
Or overweight.
Or overweight.
Fat phobia. So I want to talk about fat phobia, and this is going to be the start of where we start to bring in topics that people ask us about. And a friend of mine on Instagram, his name is Pudge. He's an amazing DJ, amazing MC that I've known for quite some time. We have a mutual respect for each other. And he asked my opinion on something. And he said he'd love to hear my point of view on this. So Cole and I decided to bring this onto the podcast because
fresh from the gym.
This is something that we have to deal with a lot, and something that we've spoken on a bunch, and we haven't brought this to the table. And for a podcast like Mentor in the Mirror, we are talking about your greatest mentor is in the mirror in front of you. When people have an issue with looking at themselves in the mirror, we often have to help guide them through really starting to be able to see themselves so that they can actually make the decisions and shifts that they want to make in their lives.
And maybe seeing themselves for the first time in their life.
Yeah, in their lifetimes. So we're going to get into fat phobia and what fat phobia is, and how the current state of our healthcare in America. I'm going to speak from an American perspective because I live in America. We live in America, and this is a huge issue in our
American medical perspective.
Yeah, and so the perspectives on wellness, healthcare, the healthcare industry, the wellness industry, the self-help industry has a lot going for it with the whole idea of obesity and being overweight, and how it is a shameful thing to be overweight or obese. There's a lot of talk around the being obese or overweight being bad for your health, and it does have health ramifications. However, quote unquote, being fat, having fat on your body is not necessarily bad for you. And this is a stigma that has been pushed out in a way to shame people. And it's become problematic. So I'm going to throw some stats at you before we get started talking about this. And as of 2018, obesity in the United States of America represents over 31% of our population. That's a 5% jump. That's in 2018, and that was a 5% jump from 2017. I don't have the stats on 2019 as of yet, so I can't speak about that. So when we look at the overweight and obese, because there's a difference between being obese and overweight, when we look at the stat of the combination of people who are overweight and obese, that's almost 75% of the men in the United States of America, and more than 60% of the women in the United States of America. Now, that's a lot of people, and that's the majority of the people in the United States of America are either overweight, quote unquote, according to the average amount of people, or obese. And there are stats on this. You can go Google, you can hit the Google or the Yahoo and check all this stuff out. These are stats that are out there for you to see. And when you think about the global, in around 2014, the global, of all the people on the planet Earth, the United States of America represented 13% of the planet's obese and overweight people. And the United States of America only represents 5% of the planet's population. Okay, so 5% of the planet's population holds 13% of the world's overweight and obese people in this country, and that was in 2014. I don't know what the current stats are.
I mean, even just given that if we've risen 5% in a year, then I mean that number has to have gone up at least another 15, even 20%.
It has, and with all the health issues around obesity and being overweight, the issue with fat phobia, and fat phobia is something that's very comparable to xenophobia or homophobia, where it's a stigmatization of people who are overweight. There's a shaming to it. Oh, look at you, you're fat. The comments about people being fat, people being lazy, people have less job opportunities because of their weight. They get less respect from people. They're seen as stupid.
Less higher positions.
They're seen as lazy.
Yeah.
What else? They're seen as they have less dating opportunities. They're considered less appealing. This is all stigmatized and grown by our media. Okay, our media, we have all of these very, very ultra thin and muscular people all over Instagram, all over Facebook, all over the news, all over billboards, all these really thin, hyper thin and muscular people. And this does not represent the majority of our country. And this is problematic because we are seeing a huge amount of shaming and a huge amount of disconnect. So I really want to bring this to light because of my history as a nurse. And I'm going to say this again. I practiced nursing for 25 years. And you can jump in anytime you're ready, Cole. I practiced nursing for 25 years. And the thing I've seen most in people with their disease processes is loneliness. And loneliness is one of the chief things that has destroyed people in my perspective in my tenure as a nurse. So when we consider that fat shaming, right, is a phenomenon in the United States, in our media, in our personal lives, and all of this stuff, and then to consider that the majority of people in the United States are overweight or obese, this is a staggering issue of causing people to be in a spot of loneliness, and everybody is shaming each other and shaming themselves based off of their weight and how they look and the stigmatization. This is a very dangerous thing, and it's not just the lifestyle of people who have weight issues, who have overweight bodies and that type of stuff. It's an issue of not being able to connect as human beings. So we want to bring this to light, and we want to talk about it today.
It's such a fascinating thing because all we ever have is our own perspective, right? And we never know the full story of what someone's experiencing. And there is this outward idea that's pretty systemic, like Ta was saying, of what the perception if a person is obese, what that has to mean about them. And I have a prime example that I'm going to share in just a moment, that you don't know where someone is in a process. You don't know what they're up against. And just because someone may be carrying their trauma or their environment or their childhood development on the outside does not make them less healthy, actually. Yes, there are different ramifications for obesity for sure. And we have plenty of clients, I'll say, or people or past clients that were not in the obesity range with very poor health. They were just wearing their dysfunction on the inside and internalizing it in a different kind of way. But to say that one is healthier than the other, when you start to really break down systemically what's going on in someone's body, then it becomes, a little bit more debatable on which is worse. I have seen time and time again when I was a fitness instructor or personal trainer that, like, I had one client, amazing, Jen in Flatbush. I love you. If
big
you
ups,
hear
Jen.
this,
Big ups, girl.
You're
big
amazing.
Ups.
So Jen, if you were to see her along her journey, you may think, wow, she's still, or not still, outward perspective, oh, that woman, she's going to the gym, she's got to work out, yeah, she needs to lose some weight, whatever. Not knowing that this woman has already lost over 240 pounds.
No surgeries.
We're talking about, this is like a quarterback, all right? Actually, you know what? It's larger than most quarterbacks. So we're talking about a full-grown man, and she can
full-grown men.
Right? She can out endurance, out workout, out pretty much anyone.
Outlift.
I know.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
She is badass with it. And if you ever get to the opportunity to see her, please tell her she's amazing, because she's is.
She's absolutely
and
awesome.
So here's the thing is, when someone is first taking these steps to learn about their body, to learn about the way their body is translating and manifesting what they're putting into it. And that includes toxic environments, not just toxic food. This includes trauma, resolution, all sorts of things like that. So as someone steps into, say, that first frontier of working out, we shame them. People post videos on Instagram making fun of a person on a machine, or in a class or walking down the street. These shame tactics are what make people hide. Who wants to come out of their house finally brave enough, okay, to step into a gym or to go in to get a salad only to be mocked? I can't tell you how many times I've held someone while they cried because they would have to hide in their car to eat because they didn't feel safe to eat in front of anyone. And it's shame. I mean, you're going to hear us talk about shame a lot. Shame is one of the most insidious, toxic, detrimental mechanisms that we use.
That we have in existence, period. Yeah. And when you think about the stigmatization of body fat and that it's a bad thing, it's a horrible thing to have, there is proof that links obesity, like morbid obesity and really having lots of visceral body fat to diseases. There is. And there are, to be overweight or to have body fat in excess of 15% or as a man or 20% as a woman or whatever it is as a woman, there's nothing that's really founded in that notion. And it has been utilized as an excuse to shame people and without as a healthcare, I know I'm stuttering on this because this shit riles me up. As a healthcare professional, I have watched doctors actually not do diagnostics on people, not really do an examination on somebody and just write them off and tell them, look, you just need to lose some weight. Your back's going to stop hurting if you lose weight. Your stomach's going to stop hurting if you stop eating this food and you lose weight, without actually caring about the person, the human being that they're talking to.
Person.
This is a human fucking being, okay? These are people with feelings that need love, care, and consideration. And the rate of depression, anxiety, and suicide in people who are overweight or obese, quote unquote, and I'm saying quote unquote overweight or obese, are considered fat, right? I can't stand that terminology, calling someone fat. But
the thing is, according to medicine, I'm overweight. And it's like, okay.
So, BMI, don't let me get into BMI.
Yeah, we don't even have time for that today.
But we know body mass index. Body mass index was something that I think was created in the 19th century. And the guy that created the BMI was like, look, this isn't a great indicator for determining if somebody's fat or not. It's just their index of their body mass, and it's according to national averages and that type of shit. It's absolute nonsense. So, going by these old defunct mechanisms of measuring people is dysfunctional. So in our healthcare industry still rocks off of BMI, and I think it's really dysfunctional. So we can get into that a whole other time. But as I was saying before, depression, anxiety, suicide is super high in people who are considered overweight or fat. They have higher instances of eating disorders, binging disorders, and that type of stuff because and doing extreme diets and stuff that are actually dangerous for their health because of the stigmatization of being quote unquote fat. So these things push people into corners. And how if you need to go to the gym, you want to work out, right? But if you go to the gym, people are looking at you funny. People are saying funny shit to you. People are saying, yeah, fat boy, or yeah, fat girl, or whatever. And then you don't want to go to the gym. So you have a decreased instance of physical activity. These are things that are pressed up against people who are overweight and who have increased amounts of body fat in this country.
Well, and how often did you hear, I can speak for myself for sure, but how often did you hear as a trainer, oh, well, I just need to work out before I come to work with you? It's like...
all the time.
All the time. Back it up? Or how many times have people been like, well, I want to lose like 5 more pounds and then I'll go to the gym. And it's like, what? That's what the gym is, the trainer is,
right? And this is the programming that people get,
yeah, because
they're taught that there's something wrong with them, and it's not that there's something wrong with you. It's that if you have health issues, you can go see somebody and you can find out if you have health issues, and if there's not a health issue, be who you are.
Well, if we'll just take time to love and consider people, honestly, they'll ask more questions and they'll stop hiding so much. It's like when people finally feel safe enough to ask questions like, oh, I didn't know that about food. Oh, I didn't realize that about diet. Oh, I can't just go calorie deficient to get healthy. That doesn't, there's ways to do these things. There's ways to fast. There's ways to do intermittent fasting. There's ways to incorporate a ketogenic diet. There's ways to do things to obtain a certain goal. So it first starts with getting someone clear on, how do you want to feel? Do you feel, are you experiencing the life the way that you want to? And I honestly believe that if we can't relate to someone, it's because we haven't asked them enough questions.
And that's a huge part of it, Cole, is being able to speak to people. And this is where this being nice shit, as opposed to being kind and actually talking to a person and instead of snickering in the background and saying some smug shit, it's like, how are you? What's going on with you? How's your lifestyle? What's going, what do you like to eat? What do you like to do? How do you feel? And having these uncomfortable conversations. People don't speak to their friends. I've had friends come up to me. I have a very good friend that came up to me. She's lost a ton of weight, a ton. Okay. And she's done all of this stuff. And then she started putting on some weight and she came to me and she said, Ta, I don't feel like my friends are my friends because I put weight on and nobody said anything to me. And I can see it myself in the mirror, and it's a significant amount of weight that I put on over the past, couple of months, and nobody said anything to me. People are afraid to speak to people because of fat shaming, this is and fat phobia. There's this whole stigma against not speaking about it, and it's like the elephant literally like the elephant that's in the room that nobody will speak about. And this creates loneliness. It creates disconnect. We need to be able to talk to each other about these uncomfortable conversations and talk to the people that we care about. Hey, how you doing? I noticed that you might have put some weight on. Is everything okay with you? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling comfortable? Is there something going on in your life? Because I've had emotional eating situations in my life where I put on 40 pounds in 6 months. And for me, with my frame, that's a lot for me to put on in 6 months. And nobody asked me shit. Nobody said anything to me.
That's because people don't want to know. Like, I feel like one of the biggest things that gets in our way of progression is the people around us don't want to deal with it because it's like, well, just, pull up your bootstraps and, life is hard and you just have to fight through it, versus taking that moment to pause, looking someone in the eye and saying, hey, I've noticed that you've put on some weight. Are you good? Is everything, everything cool? Is there anything that you need? Because if there's a lot of weight getting put on, it doesn't usually, unless there's a medical reason, it doesn't usually just happen. And even if there is a medical reason, what's been going on in the life, in the nervous system, with the stressors that could have really impacted the body to where it's having an overload and it can no longer sustain its natural processes.
Right. And so then we can take it a step deeper. There are a lot of factors for a person putting on weight. It can be genetics, right? Some people are genetically inclined to putting on body fat. And there are 3 different somatotypes. Okay. There's an ectomorphic body somatotype, which is the people who tend to be able to eat and never put any weight on. Then there's the mesomorphic, right, which is the person who seems to be muscular all the time. And then there's the endomorphic people. And the endomorphic people tend to hold onto body fat, and they tend to be rounded no matter what happens. They tend to keep a certain amount of body fat on their bodies. There are 3 different somatotypes. Those are genetically, you are predisposed to those genetically. Okay. There are those factors. There are also the factors of societal constructs. When you're born into a family that eats a certain way or does not act a certain way, you can be told from when you're a kid, oh, this is how we eat. This is how our family eats. This is how black people eat. This is how white people eat. This is how Puerto Ricans eat. This is how this people, oh, we don't run. That's not what our family does. We don't do this. You can be born into that, and that can also have an effect on you as well. So there are different stigmas and different situations that affect how we put on body weight. So it's not about being lazy. It's not about being stupid. It's not about having a lack of motivation. There are a multitude of factors for each person and why they may have body fat on them. So to move into a space of judging is dysfunctional.
Yeah, there's a whole mindset that gets developed as we are born, as we're raised in certain environments, that it creates beliefs. If we believe, here's an example for me. I believed I was going to need my knees, I was going to need to get my knees replaced because my father did, my aunt, my uncles, my grandpa, my grandmother, all had their knees replaced. So even the way that I moved, there was this subconscious thing running in the background that believed I'm going to have to get my knees replaced. We have bad knees. That's the story that I took on. So if you hold and carry the belief that you have bad knees or a bad back, you can actualize that in how you perform, in what foods you crave, in what activities you participate in, because you've already resigned to the idea that you're broken. And it's not an easy one-step process for us to sit and criticize someone that is overweight, that is obese. There is so much more going on as far as beliefs and constructs, conditioning, medical conditions, the food they were raised on. Taking certain people off of foods and processed foods they've been raised on, if you took them off, they would have detrimental impacts on their health. It's not even as easy as just changing diet or, the dysfunctions that it creates as far as eating disorders. Have you sat and asked someone questions? One of the things that Ta says that I just really love is, being considerate. Have you considered it? Even just a little bit. That if you're feeling very separate from someone, very different from someone, I don't care what race, what country, what gender, non-gender binary, whatever, if you feel so separate from them that there's nothing in common, you haven't asked enough questions.
That's right.
Because as we've traveled the world, as we've really experienced, worked with, facilitated, integrated with different cultures, we come to find out that everyone in the core of who they are is the same. Now, that doesn't mean that through events or things happening that they didn't get some seriously dysfunctional patterns or behaviors. That still doesn't change. When you dig under that stuff, it's merely a matter of time and asking questions until you find something to connect on.
Definitely. I completely agree with you, love. That was very eloquently stated. So I wanted to bring up something as far as this whole fat phobia, fat shaming situation is concerned. I had a friend from high school. Her name is Sabrina Philippe, and she passed away this year. Broke my heart into pieces, and she was one of my greatest heroes. And I'm gonna explain why this subject is particularly tender to me. This girl, when we were in high school, she was really the big chick, and people used to talk about her relentlessly and say real terrible shit behind her back, and they would throw stuff at her, and they would do all kinds of really mean shit to her. And I was the short kid in high school, and I didn't want to rock the boat, so I didn't say anything. But deep down in my heart, I wanted to defend this girl, and I was afraid that I would catch backlash if I defended her. So that fat phobia spreads to other people that want to fit in, right? I wanted to fit in. I don't do that shit anymore. I wanted to fit in terribly. So I did not defend this girl. And I allowed people to bully her, and I allowed people to say shit to her, and I allowed them to throw paper at her and airplanes and all this shit at her and write stuff and stick it to her, and I never said a fucking word. And she took it like a champ, and she was one of my greatest heroes. And about 2 years ago, I connected with her on Facebook, and I called her up and I said, girl, I want to tell you something, that I didn't have the fucking guts to take care of you in high school, and you were one of my greatest heroes. And she was like, wow, I never knew that shit, because you've always inspired me, and we've had this mutual inspiration going back and forth without ever saying a word to each other. And this woman, I don't care what she looked like, I don't care about any of that shit. We became really, really awesome fucking friends, and I supported this woman, and I found out a lot of the shit that she was suffering from was loneliness, and how she had been abused as a person because because she was overweight, because she had all this stuff, and the amount of trauma and stuff that she had to deal with as a result of a lot of abuse and shit from her childhood contributed to her staying where she was. The rest of her family was not of this size. She was the anomaly. Okay, so this was her obesity was secondary to a lot of cause, and it really tore me apart inside. But I'm glad that I got to support this woman, and she developed all kinds of weird stuff and some cancer and shit, and she died this year, and she died at 47 years old, and it broke my heart into shreds. And I want you to know that type of loneliness is not necessary. And the more we educate our children, the more we educate each other, the more we have these uncomfortable fucking conversations, the more we can get to the root of what's going on this planet, particularly in this country. Okay, we got to support each other. We have to support one another. We've got to love one another. I don't care how much body fat a person has on their body. They're a human being, and they can be loved, and they need love, and we all need to love each other. So I am encouraging, and I'm saying this from the pit of my soul, I'm encouraging you to examine your own ideas and thoughts around people who have body fat that may be higher than yours, okay? Because I see people who have high body fat percentages shaming people who have more body fat than they do. And this shit goes around in circles and loops. We all need to be loved. And if we're going to change this planet, we've got to start with ourselves and our own perspectives on how we do things. And if you've been participating in the fat phobia, if you've been participating in the fat shaming, can you ask yourself that question? The next time you walk outside your house and you see somebody and they're overweight, or they have a burger in their hand or something, and you start to have these thoughts in your head, oh, this person's lazy, oh, this person's stupid, oh, this person, stop and wait and think. Is this my story, or is this the truth?
At the end of the day, it's the dogs are snoring. It's so cute. I don't think you could hear it on here, but at the end of the day, we all, whether we want to believe it or not, have been programmed by television, movies, social media, magazines to judge how somebody looks. And we praise people with muscles and arms and all this stuff. And not that shame doesn't exist for fit people. That's just not what we're here to talk about today. We're here for a specific purpose. And that's because, as a general rule, there has been a lot more shame pointed at people that do equal the majority of this country, who don't have education, who don't have access to healthy foods, or, people to help support them in dismantling some of the societal constructs that have created the dysfunction to begin with. So if you're really about people, if you're really about contribution and love, consideration, kindness, then consider the subconscious judgments that are going on in your head all the time. And it's not to shame yourself either. It's to bring awareness, because only through awareness can we transmute that. Can we change some of the habits of shaming and of judging, so that we can truly start to bring in and connect with people for transformation.
True indeed. Well said, love. And consider where you're shopping, okay? If the places you're shopping only has size 1 and 2 in the window, are they contributing to the whole stigma around fat shaming? If the majority of the people in this country are overweight or obese according to those titles, how come we don't have clothing that accommodates for these people in the majority of our clothing outlets? And how come a country like America that shames people being fat or obese or overweight, man, that's calling people fat just right. I can't even stand that. Supports a food industry that provides us nothing but garbage. When you go into your supermarket, 99% of the food in the supermarket is absolute shit. And the fast food and stuff that design. We serve is terrible. And we fortify these industries and then we turn around and we look at the people that are feeding these industries, and we shame them. This is dysfunction at its highest capacity. And I think that, awareness, bringing awareness to ourselves, bringing awareness to yourself first and foremost, before you try to push an agenda on somebody else, bringing this awareness into your own body, into your own being. Watch what you do. Watch how you respond. Watch how your body tightens up or tenses up when you see somebody that you think is quote unquote fat. And also, stop calling people fat, right? You don't say, I am arm. You have an arm.
Two.
Right? Right? I am arm. I am skin. No, stop. Listen, with the I am fat. If a person has more body fat, then they have more body fat. That doesn't mean a person is fat. Okay. So, watching your language, and I'm not talking about toning it down just to save somebody from something. This is an actual awareness.
It's a truth, because someone is not fat in the totality of what they are. So we're actually just talking about bringing in more truth, that there's bone and there's muscle and there's fascia and there's all this other stuff. So it's bringing more truth to what is, not dulling down or trying to pretend that it's not a problem physically. Or on a health perspective. It's just, if we're really going to be about consciousness and elevation and humans surviving on this planet, it's not going to come by shaming each other.
Nope.
Because that's what got us right here,
in the
right
first
now,
place,
where we are. So if you're listening or you're watching right now and you work with people, or that is who you want to work with, to really, with love and consideration and kindness, be able to walk people through diet changes or medical or whatever, then take a screenshot of the video or the podcast, tag us on Instagram, Talkhole, or on Facebook, Talkhole, and we'll share it out to our listeners, because we're all about connecting people with the support that they need. And right now for us, that is, we can incorporate that in what we do with our clientele, but that isn't the focus. And if you've got a long journey ahead, you want a nutritionist, you want a personal trainer, you really want a dietitian and someone to really cater that, a lifestyle for you.
Yeah. And, talk to people, talk to us. We are here to help. We are here to help you, to help you develop your own life team of people who can help you live your life to the ultimate.
If you want recommendations, we got you.
Hit us up.
Yep.
And again, you are not a problem to us ever. I don't care what your body fat is. I don't care what your weight is. I don't care what language you speak, what color you are, what sex you are, what gender, I don't give a fuck about any of that. I love you deeply and relentlessly. I don't care how much body fat you have, or don't have, for that matter. I love you. And if you want acceptance and you want to see what acceptance looks like, it's right here, baby. Come get it. Come get your hugs, because I got love and hugs just for you.
And I do care. I care what you think. I care that you're enjoying your life. I care that you want to create a life that you love. I care that you're still alive. I care that you have endured. I care that you're doing the absolute best that you can right now. So don't forget, if you've loved this episode, you want to hear more from us, or there's other topics you want to dive into, you can rate, review. We love the reviews we're getting. In fact, starting on the next episode, I'm going to start reading some of these reviews, because they're awesome.
Yeah.
And just to really share that love with all of you.
Yeah. Download and share. Don't forget.
Yep.
Rate, review, subscribe, download, share, and come join us on Facebook at Talkhole, Instagram, Talkhole. Start a conversation. Let's get this conversation going so that we can actually have a dialogue about this, because your perspective matters to us. Whether we agree with it or not, it matters to us. When we start to have that dialogue, that's where the power is for us. We have dialogue and we start to gain perspective, and we start to understand more. I don't know it all. Cole doesn't know it all. You don't know it all. But together we do know it all. So let's share that information.
So until the next episode, we love you so much. And for those that come and work with us, or come and visit us, or come have dinner with us, know this to be true, that we love you so deeply and endlessly, and with a fervor that you can come to experience for yourself, or just receive it through your ear holes or through your eyes.
And one more thing before we jump off, don't forget to go to meetmeinthemirror.com. meetmeinthemirror.com and jump in and do our program that costs you absolutely nothing. It's called The Naked Truth, to help you see yourself where you are in your life so that you know how to expand out into the life that you want to create. meetmeinthemirror.com.
That's it. Mentor in the mirror. Be free.
Peace.
And contemplate the workings of the end to be it. Your eyes are wide open, but all you really see is if you cut us, do we not bleed? If you take from us, do we not need? If you cut the air off,